AEW has made a big Mercedes Mone mistake. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what that is and how they can simply fix it. Because Mercedes Mone, since signing with AEW in May of 2024, she has become the top star. And it's quite ironic that she's only the TBS champion and she's not the actual women's champion. That right is held by Mariah May, who has done wonders with that championship. But I also think eventually we need to get Mercedes Mone as a women's champion. But that's a story for another video. What we are going to be talking about today is a area in which AEW missed the boat by a long shot, and it was literally right there for the taking. It was right there in front of their face. It was right there for all of us to see, yet they didn't do it, and it still makes me wonder why. Because if you look at Mercedes Mone's career up to this point, it's pretty simple. They brought her in as a babyface. She was not relatable whatsoever. She's better as a heel than a babyface, in my opinion. She was also doing some wacky promos. She wasn't medically cleared to wrestle for the longest time. And then finally we got the boat rolling, but people pushed back on Mercedes Mone. And, you always hear the saying that the first impression is everything. Well, she had a horrendous first impression in AEW, and this is coming from a Mercedes Mone fan. So if you look at what she's been able to do since then, you got to give her a round of applause, because since then she's said, okay, what is working, what is not working? Well, she's putting on banger of matches, but her promos suck. Well, let's get better at those. She did. How can she get better at those? We're going to turn into a heel. They're already booing her. You might as well lean into it and draw a little bit of money, and that's what they've done. And in the meantime, they had also brought in a ton of talent for the women's division, including our today's topic, because they signed former NWA women's champion Camille. She held the record for the most days held as NWA women's champion. She was a huge star for the NWA. She had interest from WWE. She had interest from AEW, and she obviously signed with AEW instead of WWE. And they brought her in and they put her as a bodyguard for Mercedes Mone. And in retrospect, I think it was a horrendous idea. At the time, it was like, okay, you bring her in, she is automatically aligned with your biggest star in the women's division, one of your biggest stars in the women's or in the entire company, and it brings a spotlight to her. She can learn a little bit, she can build up her momentum, she can do squash matches, and then eventually you just lead to a split with her and Mercedes Mone, and then you're off to the races with that feud. And then maybe Camille, dethrones her as women's TBS champion, and then she goes on and does bigger and better things, that being Mercedes, and then Camille has this championship, and it really sets the tone for the career of Camille in AEW. It's actually a slam dunk thing, yet they screwed it up because they just simply had them split up. And guess what? The storyline was dropped. That was months ago. Okay, their split happened in 2024. We have not seen Camille on AEW television since then. She's talked about how she doesn't know why she's not on AEW television. She's talked about how she is looking forward to showing the world, showing the AEW fan base what she can do on her own outside of the umbrella of Mercedes Mone. Yet they're not using her. And it makes you wonder, what are we doing exactly with Camille? Here's how you just fix it. It's very easy. Her alliance with Camille failed. Camille returns. They do the match. Camille beats her. Boom, boom, boom. It's pretty straightforward, right? The only problem is, I don't know if they'll actually do it, because it seemed like a pretty straightforward slam dunk idea. Hey, you have Camille and Mercedes Mone break up. Okay, they did that. Great. Where's the match? Well, we didn't do that. Well, why? Well, we dropped it. And there's really no reason why. And we haven't done anything with Camille since then. But yeah, we can do a match. Like, I don't know if they're actually going to do it. I would not be genuine if I said that I thought that they would. It's certainly how they can fix it. I think this shows a bigger point, and this is what I wanted to talk about, was like, okay, they made the mistake, they didn't do the match, they're probably not going to do the match. Okay, that shines a much bigger light, a much bigger problem with the AEW product and the booking philosophy and the booking ways and the booking strategy and the way that AEW and Tony Khan operate this promotion at. Like, this alliance wasn't for a week. Heck, it wasn't even for a month. Like, we went multiple months with Camille, and they started doing the slow turns, and Mercedes Mone was talking down to her, and they were on a good way, and then all of a sudden it just All right, boom, they're going to split up and there's no follow up. It's a lot like Vince McMahon back in the day where he had two guys in a tag team or two gals. And he came in one day and goes, okay, we're going to break up these two. Okay, great. Here's what we have to break them up. Fantastic. Let's break them up. Hey, Vince, so what's the follow up to these guys? What are we going to do once we break them up? Oh, I have no idea. We're just going to break them up. And it's like, well, what's the point with it now? Obviously, in this case, Britt Baker, she's gone on. She's done other things. She went into a Willow Nightingale program. That was a lot of fun. They put on two great matches. She's still doing big things in AEW. Mercedes Mone really hasn't taken a hit. Camille, on the other hand, she's fallen off the face of the earth. That would be what we would determine as a problem and something which you might want to fix. And there's no end in sight of being able to fix it. There's no path of fixing it, yet they're just going with it. At that time, at that point, it's a frustrating thing because you want to see AEW to capitalize on the name and the star power of Mercedes Mone. Clearly, Camille has something, right? She's a great worker. She still needs to work on her promos, but she does have the presence of her of like, there's something different about her. She's special. There's something there. I wouldn't necessarily classify her as having the it factor or having the most charisma in the world. I mean, that would be not correct to say, but she has something, and you clearly see her, and she clearly stands out, even with Mercedes Mone, and it's not just the height and the size presence of it all, right? It's not even that. There's something there. And I think if you look at it like this, if you're Camille, you gotta wonder whether you made the mistake of signing with AEW over WWE, because WWE, whether it's run by Vince McMahon or Triple H, they like bigger type athletes. They like the size, they like the presence, they like that type of style. And she would have been used in a major way. I think she would have been a huge star for the company over there. I even question when she signed with AEW. Now, obviously, it's so much easier to say that in retrospect to see where everything's played out. I wouldn't blame this on Mercedes Mone, but I think it was a situation where Tony Khan, he put on a great sales pitch and he offered her a ton of money, and she's like, okay, I'll sign. But then in retrospect, it's like, and this is becoming a bigger issue with AEW, but it's like if you're a talent, you have to know in the back of your head, man, if you do not get in the good gracious of Tony Khan in such a way where he always likes to use you, you can just disappear off the face of the planet when it comes to wrestling. And you got to go out there and you got to do independence and stuff like that. So you got to be really careful when you sign with AEW. And unfortunately, Camille is learning that lesson the hard way.